Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. So this evening, I really want to focus on self-empowerment as the foundation of Black empowerment. But before we get into that, I want to share with you just a quick video clip. Thank you all for joining me here this evening. I want to share this quick video clip for you guys, and you guys tell me what you think.
What we're seeing now, the Korean domination of the black hair industry, had its start back in the early 60s with the help of both the Korean government and the United States government. This is Chosun, one of the most respected newspapers in South Korea. And it's inside the archives of this newspaper that I discovered a document from 1965 in which the wig manufacturers in Korea convinced the Korean government to ban the export of raw hair, making it impossible for anyone to manufacture wigs from the highly desirable Korean hair population, except for the Korean manufacturers themselves. And 6 months after the Korean ban on the export of hair, the United States government banned the import of any wig that contained hair from China. This ban on Chinese wigs virtually locked in the wig business for these South Korean merchants. So it seems that what we're seeing today, the Korean domination of the black hair industry, had its start with the help of both the Korean and the United States government almost 40 years ago.
Well, I'm definitely going to be playing that at least one more time so people get the premise on where I'm coming from, because we keep telling other groups that we have been designed to fail. You do see proof that, and again, you have to fact check it for yourself, but you see proof that the American government with the South Korean government basically made a contract so nobody else could compete to sell to the black community. They wouldn't allow any raw materials to sell to the black community. And this is why, let me see if I can put this over here. That's why self-empowerment is just as important as black empowerment. Because I want you to think about it. Before you can go out and demand justice, and I don't mean just for your individual self, but as a collective group, not just for ourselves, but our families and our communities. We have to tackle some systematic issues and demand change for ourselves. So that way we come from the stance of stability and strength. Because think about it, you can't just fight empowerment when you're barely holding yourself. When you're barely holding yourself up, how can you fight empowerment? See, the system has been rigged to keep us mentally, socially, and financially fractured. So self-empowerment becomes not just a choice, but also a revolutionary act. But I understand that some people are focused on the macro. People are looking at the total concept of black Americans getting off and putting foot in ass, versus you building a solid foundation so you can do that very same thing. If you can't take care of your family, then how relevant and what will be your value in the black liberation of black Americans? When will that come to be? Because you're always going to be worried about home. That's why if you guys were ever in the military or know people who was in the military, one of the key focuses on making sure that that airman, that soldier, that seaman, that Marine, that person from the Coast Guard, that their family is being taken care of, the bills are being paid, food is on the table, and they have formed all these support groups. We have to think about that as well. And granted, I will never dismiss that our people have endured centuries of trauma, exploitation, and psychological warfare. I just came back from New Orleans just today. And believe me, family, I learned a lot. And I did leave a lot of information of my whole encounter on my members channel. Not asking you guys to join, but if you want to go hear it, then do one of those like subscribe, then cancel. But we understand that we've been fed lies about our inferiority. And a lot of us, to a certain degree, is believing it. I don't know. I really have no idea why. We've had our history erased. I just found out, and I kind of knew something about it before, the slave revolt of 1811. That was essentially erased from history. They are not allowing that to be very national. In this thing, we have the constant bombardment of negative images and figures and paintings and news stories, and that we are less than. We need to really take back, and not from the white power structure that deals in white supremacy and racism. No. But we need to essentially hone ourselves and change our own narrative, regardless of what they see. And again, this is my belief. I don't have any statistics to combat this. This is my belief, okay? 95% of Black Americans are doing the right thing. We're great people. We're very loving people. We're very empowering people. 95% of us are doing the right thing. The 1% is the actual criminal class, very heinous crimes. And you have your petty crimes in the 2 or 3% and so forth. But they will have you to believe, okay, let alone the entire world, that majority of us are the R word, are violent criminals, that we're essentially animals, and we know that we're not. We're very intelligent people. When we look back to the 19th century, Black Americans were forming some of the most successful communities in the country. And I know most people are, like the community of Greenwood in Oklahoma, one of the Black Wall Streets. We talk about it thousands of times, yeah. But there were also other Black business districts. But what happened? We didn't destroy our own businesses. It was systematic destruction. They destroyed those thriving communities all throughout the United States. Even prior to 1921, in 1919, the Red Summer, they destroyed all the prominent Black cities. And of course, they use the same tired narrative that a Black man did something or to a white woman. That was a narrative that they always went behind, which got everybody in an uproar. It kept white women fearful of Black men, and it kept uneducated, low-income white men on edge just to, combat with violence. And I'm not stating all of them, family, because I know some people are like, all white. No, I'm not stating that. But a good enough population to, 1, enforce it, 2, to ignore it, and 3, to allow it to happen. But we're not looking at it like that. And we also need to understand the ongoing impact that the war on drugs had in our communities. We know that those 3-letter agencies, and it's been proven, those 3-letter agencies infested the Black community with crack cocaine. We know this. And listen, other groups will come over, and even some of our own people like, oh, those things happened so long ago. First and foremost, no, it wasn't that long ago. And how do we know the effects that the violence that drugs bring and the drugs themselves, the effect that it had on our community, let alone mass incarceration? It was a setup from Jump Street. Let's make them drug dealers, pimps, hoes, and users. Let's supply them with the product and then demonize and over-police them because of what we did. And we're going to continue the perpetuated cycle. And then we're going to empower a couple of them. Yeah. We're going to empower a couple of them so they can look down on the rest of them as though they're less than. And all of this essentially was fueled by the federal government. And a lot of this legislation, and I'm not telling you to go Republican because I'm not. I'm not telling you to stay Democrat because I'm not, or independent rather. But this was a government initiative that was designed as a weapon against the Black communities. It led to all those things we talked about: mass incarceration, the fracture of our families. It took a lot of our dads outside the home. Again, the welfare system came into play, made the government our women's husbands and boyfriends. Mandatory minimums. And yes, a lot of these laws was implemented by the Democrats and some Republicans, because a lot of the Republicans supported these bills. Just because a particular class writes it, who supports it? So that's why we always state that, white supremacy controls both perspectives and both narratives on both sides. If you have a coin and you flip it, it's just a different type of white supremacy. You ever thought that we have to have some sort of social stability, like our families, our homes, our support systems? Because before you go out there and protesting and marching or demanding change, you ask yourself, are my kids safe? Are my kids educated? Is my family emotionally connected and grounded? Because all of these things, while you out trying to empower other people, you're going to be worried about home the entire time. We have many examples of us not doing well, family, and there's no fooling ourselves, but we definitely, we're jumping out here on all of these tangents about political issues that are now over. That's what I'm talking about, political issues that are over. And we're jumping out here on breadcrumbs, trying to support other class of people except for our own. I just don't understand, just because we disagree on one or two or three points, why is it though that some people always look like they take sides from a different demographic? They can't never say, okay, well, I don't agree with us with that, but they always seem as though they always side with a particular community. Or rather, I say a particular ethnic inside a demographic. Because we have to build our own support networks. This could mean investing in time in community groups, starting Black homeschooling, co-ops where someone of your family or somebody else, another family, and so on and so forth, are good at other subjects. We have to be self-empowered. Because think about it, if we're not building strong family units, how can we come together to demand change on a larger scale? The power of the Black family, this is my belief, the power of the Black family has been under attack because the system knows that when we're united, we're unstoppable. When we're united, we can get so many things accomplished. Why do you think there's been all of these missions and all of these attacks against our people? Because we understand strong families make strong communities, and strong communities make powerful movements. Powerful movements. But you have to build your strong family to build a strong community. And with that strong community, you can make those powerful movements. Without it, I just don't see. And then here's one of the most important things, because we do live in the United States of America, is financial stability. I don't know why I'm tripping over my words today. We understand that the system isn't designed to see Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, thrive financially. We understand that. And there's been so much evidence since the days of the Freedmen's Bureau in 1865. And believe it or not, the plantation I went to in New Orleans, the Destrant plantation, out of the 4 Black Freedmen's Bureau, that particular one was one of the most successful ones. So we have an example of one actually working to our benefit to a certain degree. But they built those Freedmen's Bureaus back in 1865, which was supposed to help us rebuild after slavery. What are you going to do with this mass population of people with no place to go, no infrastructure to go to? And we had to essentially build our own. But we understand that same Freedmen's Bureau, it was underfunded. it was unorganized, and they didn't follow through. So even if we get this, when we get our reparations, we have to make sure the Freedmen's Bureau that's going to be reenacted or something close thereof, that we look at other groups, take for instance the Native Americans with the end of Bureau Affairs, and see how they're being funded to make sure we're being funded just as equally. But even during that time, many of our people was left destitute, and the government didn't care to do anything about it. They gave us land grants to white Americans to build up their wealth and let us out of this so-called American dream of generational wealth, to the point where people who deal in the white supremacy society would tell us to go back home. We're like, we've been here before you. We're the one who built the nation. We have proof. And I'm really tired of the the Irish slave narrative. An indentured servant is not a slave. Indentured servants were chained, shackled, whooped, beaten and killed. And they could not leave, where you run up a debt and you can work it off in 7 years. You can still go out to the bar and have a good time and live where you want to live. That's not the same thing as slavery, guys. I don't know why they keep trying to water that narrative down. And if you believe a lot of our black veterans got the GI Bill during that time, they didn't. Like back in 1944, 1945? When they was handing out the GI Bill, they funded the GI Bill from World War II. And then if you fast forward today, we're still fighting to close that racial wealth gap that was created by policies like redlining and discriminatory lending practices. But they want us, the coon class, people who just don't believe, do for self. They believe that none of these things contribute to the current condition we are today. And we do have to take self-accountability. There's a lot of things in our community that a couple of people can get together and stop for it to be better. But what I'm stating is the foundation, this was actually structured systematically this way for us to fail. And some of these things in different forms still exist to a certain degree. But again, you'll have to give somebody a whole lesson how history and government work, and how the government is very, intelligent on how they word bills, how they know that it would affect certain communities based on all the statistics that they have. They use statistics and algorithms to say, if we do this and that, what community will it affect and how will it affect them? They have this information. But, they didn't say black people. If I told you that, if I told you that 80% of black Americans live in apartments, and the government created a bill for those who lived in apartments to pay a rental tax to the federal government. All of a sudden, they want a rental tax. The federal government wants to charge people more money because they won't go out and buy a house, and that they just want to rent. So the federal government is coming up with a rental tax. And it's going to charge you, let's say, extra 15%. And they look at the statistics and they see that, majority of black Americans are renting at 80%. So who do you believe that bill is targeted to? Now, again, the legalese and the language are a little more complex than that, but I just brought it down to its bare bones for you to understand. And a lot of people just don't understand when things are not this straightforward. They're not looking at it from each and every way and really, really analyzing and researching the etymology of the words and the construction of what they're saying. People are not looking at it like that. Home ownership, discriminatory lending practices. And here's the thing, family, we cannot wait. We cannot just wait. We cannot just wait for reparations. We still fight for reparations. We still protest and march about reparations. But again, this is about self-empowerment, where you build a foundation and make sure your family's taken care of so you don't weaken the fort. So we're not just going to wait around for reparations, but we're still going to go for that as well. But we got to do for self. Because we can't wait for reparations or some sort of magical policy to fix the conditions that this government has forever been systematically setting up us for failure. Setting us for failure. That's what's been going on. But I would never tell you guys to use it as an excuse. Never. But now the fools that say that, oh, I have, listen, your experiences are your experiences, and a great majority of our people experiences are theirs. Now, I know there's going to take us a lot to get there. We're going to have to learn financial literacy, budgeting, understanding credit. It's amazing that when I used to give my financial classes, that people really didn't understand what it took to really, obtain a good credit score. So you can go out and buy a home and build equity and take from your house and build a business, et cetera, which how a lot of Americans have been doing for quite some time. You buy a home, you build equity, you take equity out of that home, you start a business. As simple as that. It's really that simple. But again, even with some of these laws that have been affecting us, even to this day, we still got to make sure we're good and our family is good before we look at the macro perspective of our people. Because a lot of times you can get weak like that. If everybody that is of able body is out in the street fighting, protesting, but the home is failing, you may not be able to go back to that home. So you got to take care of home first. Because when you're financially empowered, you're no longer at the mercy of systems that want to keep us poor. We'll never be at that stronghold. You'll be able to support our own black businesses and create your own and keep the dollar circulating within our community just as everyone else has. The white community, the dollar circulates more than one time, more than two times. The Asian community, the Hispanic community, the Jewish community, etc. See, and you guys may not agree what I'm about to say here, is that sometimes I believe, and I won't really, and this is for my rhetoric, not to change your perspective. How's the Democratic Party for the poor class? When are you going to change that thing where you're going to make all these good field bills, but nothing really to empower people for business and job growth and creation, but create more social programs so the people always need you? And when you look at foundational Black Americans, you look at our history, we've always been business builders and business creators. And here's another thing. Not everybody can start a business. Not everybody can run a business, but you can support that business and you can work for that business. See, I'm not going to tell everybody, oh, you should go out and create a business. Everybody with a business, we know some people don't have the mental aptitude for that, and that's fine. They can at least work for the business, whatever that may be, with their own skills. So we can start building Fortune 500 companies. You always have to have people to work for you. And again, we want everybody to work for us as well. But there'd be no more gatekeeping because we'll have our own. And none of this means that we're begging politicians for scraps or anything. We're not begging for anything. We will be creating our own wealth and opportunities. Because financial power allows us to build institutions that will cater to our people just as every other community does. We can fund our own fights for justice. We can fund our own grassroots candidates. and really not relying on anyone else's dime. Now, that's the kind of control that the system really don't want us to have. Because here's the truth: self-empowerment has to come first. It has to come first. It's the foundation of the Black American family in this country. It's the very foundation. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your family first. Because when we're each mentally, socially, and financially strong, we form a united front. We're no longer individuals struggling in a broken system. We're a collective force with the stability and clarity to fight for a real change in our communities. That's just what it is. And we have examples. And the most notorious examples is Dr. King and Malcolm X. But I want you to think about those two. Those two leaders, they were backed by strong communities, churches, and organizations like the NAACP when they were on code. Now, we know later on in Malcolm X's life, things occurred that the nation wasn't really supporting him like that. But initially, he had that support. We can go out and do all those great things. So guess what? We have to take care of ourselves and our families so we can start supporting people. This is what it takes. Because when you're rooted in self-empowerment, you can join the movement not out of desperation, but out of a determined strength, out of like a really strong stance. Let me see what you guys are saying today. I see Volvo in the room. Nice to see you. Good evening, everyone. This came back from my birthday weekend. My wife took me to New Orleans. And again, if you guys want to check out what I was talking about, New Orleans and the history, I made that special for the members. But again, you know me, you guys should join my membership. I'm just not that type of guy. If you want to join and get some interesting content, then go ahead. If not, we can still rock on right here. I see I got Brent C. What's going on, Brent C? Good evening. Jermaine Anderson, my good moderator there, Lil's Nose. B1, salute to you as well. Lil's Nose says, I agree with that Blacklogic. Don't wait. Have a strong foundation for yourself and family. And when the check hits, that's even better. I totally agree with that. Self-employment, self-empowerment, and self-sufficient. B1, salute to that. Thank you, Lils. I appreciate that. Volvo, appreciate that, everyone. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. Again, didn't want to keep you here long. Right under 30 minutes. Damn, I'm good. I did it. I'm just kidding. But I don't smoke these on camera no more, but I'm going to finish it. I'm down to one a year. But anyway, you guys have a great and wonderful evening. And I'll speak to you guys on the next one. I'm tripping up, stumbling, but you guys have a good one. Be one.